this talk. I did not know where to start from. I prayed about it, and this second Samuel, chapter 9, is a story I had never taken time to read, but I only know that it is a story based on special needs. You know, those stories you hear about, you hear, yes, there's a special needs person who was in this story. So I decided to take time on it. And as I was reading, I realized I also needed to learn about this story. I thought I was getting some talk. Kumbe, this talk was also pointing at me. Now, this story takes us back to David, who in verse 1 is asking a pertinent question to the special needs. Is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? You start the story, you only remember the connection David has with Jonathan. And I know we all know, I don't want to go to that story, where Jonathan had to shelter David as a friend because the father wanted to kill him. He was a threat to his life. But the son, Jonathan, decides to take care of him. But right now, David is a grown up, he has his own home, he is the one who is the king, but he wants to find out if there is anyone in the house of Saul whom he should show kindness. And as he finds out, it is Ziba the servant who comes to his aid because you find him asking Ziba. And Ziba tells him there is still a son of Jonathan. There is a semicolon there, but he is a lame in both feet. The moment you hear someone is lame, both feet, it's like, oh, all your strength is gone. And you would least expect someone would be interested in this lame person, both feet. So the semicolon brings a contrasting idea there. But the king continues, where is he? Then he gets to learn he is at the house of somebody. Of course, Jonathan is not there, and so he's told where he is. But he insists he must see him, so he's brought to him. I hope you are all in that chapter of 2 Samuel, chapter 9, because when he is brought to him, the man is called Men-Hibosheth. Even pronouncing the name, these are not familiar stories. I took time, I have to read the name for me to get used to this story. Just like it is when we get to know there is a lame person. Now, to make it worse, both legs. Those ones are hardly known. What we normally know, they are left at home. And that is what has happened here. This one is at home, but the king wants him brought to him. And so when he's brought to him, I love what he says. He gives him comforting words here. Do not be afraid, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. That is so touching when we know that the father was David's friend. And he even continues to reassure him more. I wish we had all the time to go step by step to see how touching that story is. He tells him that he's going to restore all the land that belonged to Jonathan. So assuring, coming from a king, so humbling. And then he goes on to say something you least expect, that he will always eat at the king's table. It makes me long for this kind of lameness that can make one be recognized. But I wonder where in the present world we are living. But I love this story that the king is so reassuring to Mephibosheth. I'm sorry, allow me to misspell the name, but gradually we'll get used to this name, Mephibosheth. Give him all the land that belonged to the father, and will always eat at the king's table. Verse 8, Mephibosheth bows down and tells the king words that make him know where he has been placed in the society. What is your servant that you should notice a dead dog like me? He's speaking, he's not dead, but how does he take notice of a dead dog like me? Because I want to believe such people were left at the house, left to rot, left to die, a dog like him. But the king does the opposite. He goes on and summons Ziba, the servant. And he tells the servant that he has given Mephibosheth everything that belonged to Saul and his family. He's re-emphasizing what he told Mephibosheth, and now the servant must know this, probably even to make them give more meaning to this life that has been left at home. And he goes on even to say that Ziba and the sons and the servants are to farm the land for him so that Mephibosheth can be provided for. So this king is going beyond even the food he's giving him. He's going beyond even the land that belongs to him to make sure Mephibosheth is catered for every need. What I note here with concern, Mephibosheth did not complain to the king. If anything, he's wondering why he can notice him at his deathbed, left for the dead, because that's where they belong. But he goes on even to say, to tell Ziba another comforting thought. He tells Ziba that Mephibosheth will always eat at my table. We don't know how the eating habits were. We don't know how he was catered for, but that I think is so assuring to someone who has special needs. And I find this so encouraging. I don't know how we can find it in this present lives we are living. Now, the Bible records that Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. All these people, can you imagine, were meant to serve Mephibosheth. Verse 11 mentions that maybe Mephibosheth ate at David's table like any one of the king's sons. This imagery used here, like any of the king's sons, brings live a real mental picture that the king values this special needs man like his own sons. Nobody talks of the ages here, but we can almost tell these are not young people because even Mephibosheth has a young son called Micah. But they are all treated here. Mephibosheth is being treated as a king. It reminds me of this song in the church hymnal. I don't know who knows this song that talks about the way each one of us should feel and should sing, proudly sing. I'm a child of the King. I may not quote all those words, but the chorus says, I'm a child of the King. I belong to his care, and the Father cares for his own. And on, so reassuring those words are. Now, as you continue, you get to learn that all these members of Ziba's household were servants of Mephibosheth. I don't know how touching that story is to you, but it is indeed touching to me. I would continue talking about that story even more, but I'll only go to some of the lessons I learned from it. The one, before I even go to the lessons, I look at the number of sons Ziba has. Ziba, who was a servant. Ziba has 15 sons and 20 servants. I ask myself, why are they 15 sons? Could it be God intended that they all minister to Mephibosheth so that Mephibosheth has nothing to lack even before the king's aid comes? But now, top up with the king's aid here, that even when it comes to the feeding, Mephibosheth is eating like a king's son. I don't know what this meant. This feeding meant. Was he eating breakfast there, lunch, and supper? So that means with all these servants, with all these work Ziba's household is giving to Mephibosheth, all his needs were met. My, I would have wished to hear what needs those were that left to be taken care of. Because a special needs person has so many needs. You just wonder, what are they doing to him? All these people? Surely. And the king has also realized that this man needs this kind of help. Now, I wonder why David considers all this for this man. If he's doing this to appreciate what Jonathan did for him, then it is great things for us. Or I even ask myself, maybe as we continue, we'll discover why he could have done that. Let's straight away go to the lessons because I realize our time is moving so fast. Let me base the first lessons to what I learn about the church and what the church should be doing. The first one is, sorry, I'm not sharing. We have a very tight schedule this week. When I learned about this, we almost going into the midterms, the setting of exams, several meetings we least expected. I'm sorry I did not share, but I hope you'll take my words as there because it is a message I found so meaningful at this time. So the first lesson I learned is that the church should focus on doing something with. The lesson is on about some 3 words, key words, little words that seem to be so meaningful to me. That the focus is on doing something with, that is the first word, something with the labeled as disabled. So the little words that I'm going to emphasize on, which are very important here, as we focus on doing something with the labeled disabled, are the following words. The first one is to, the second one is for, and the third one is with. So the first one, which is to, something do, to do something to. when you deal with teachers, they are problematic. I'm almost forgetting that I'm not teaching now. But these lessons must be brought out. So the word is to. The second one is for. Do something for. And the third one is with. Do something with. So I take David here and let me put those words there. David wants to do something for Jonathan's household. He wants to work with Mephibosheth. And what does he want to do with Mephibosheth? He wants to empower Mephibosheth. How does he do it? Yes, he has empowered him. He's lame. He is crippled here. Someone you can imagine will not do anything, but he has empowered him. How? He will report to the king. How is he reporting to the king? He's going to do what he has asked him to do, to feed at his table. He has already empowered him. How many people are called to State House to feed with the president? And how many would you expect of Mephibosheth's type? So David wants to work with Mephibosheth. So these little three words fit to belong to the church. To, for, and with. Do something to, do something for, do something with the disabled, the labeled disabled. And I think your church is already qualifying to do that. Even to call somebody at such an hour to talk about the disabled. May God bless this church to do that which He has called you to do. I don't know how many there are, though someday I would really even want to know who they are, how many they are. Because to create such a moment, it means you are serious, church. And as I've told you, it is the first church um, giving a talk for special needs. Number two, the way the church should understand disability helps people to know how to treat people generally. Let me frame it more, maybe in a better way. The way we understand disability helps us know how to treat people generally. So it's not just the disabilities, it is the way we treat people. So the way we understand disability, the way your church understands your family, the disability in family will help you to know how to treat people generally. And I can see you're already doing it practically. Now, this is why I was saying I don't know what David knew about disability, but I connect it with the time Jonathan saves him. That's why he wants to work with Mephibosheth. He must have been disabled himself. Why? He was hidden. He couldn't be with other people. And guess what? Any one of us can become disabled anytime. So if we are not learning to treat one another the way we ought to, how are we going to learn to treat the disabled? So David was disabled, and there came to his aid Jonathan, who took care of him, and that saved David. Number three, it is still for the church, although I put no big gap between the church, individual, and the family again. So all these points are intertwined. Kindness, for number three, is a key step in telling who we are as individuals and as a church. So when you treat the disabled kindly, You're already telling not just the church members, you're also telling the people who you are as a church. You are not only treating the disabled in the church, you're also treating your neighbors. You're also finding out many others who are out there and you reach out to them. Now, how does that happen? It starts with the heart. It cannot work with our own works because we are too busy with our own things. Yes, we have our own money. It cannot work because our heart is what we'll ask God to help us seek out to help many others. David asks, is there anyone left of the house of Saul whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Most of us would say no. There's just a cripple, just that man who is there who is lame, and both feet are lame. So how do you show kindness to that one? And that's why I say kindness is a step key in telling who we are. Number 4, the church must have a clear mission like Jesus did. The church must have a clear mission like Jesus did. Do you know, I was trying to find out how many miracles Jesus performed during his 3.5 years of his ministry. And I discovered that there are 35 miracles he performed. Out of those 35, 23 were directly touching people with disabilities. Isn't this a clear mission? So a mission you have as a church, we have a church as a church, without dealing with those who are disabled, leaves question marks if it is not Christ-centered. Luke chapter 4, verse 18 says that the Lord hath anointed. I should ask one of you to read it. Anyone? Luke 4, verse 18. Anyone can unmute and read? Kindly. Luke 4, verse 18. Are we there?
Says, Luke 4:18 says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and recover of sight to the blind, to set all liberty those who are oppressed.
And it is just that mission that Jesus showed us when he told us to go out. Thank you for the reading. We sit and find out who are these brokenhearted, who are the ones who are in captives, who are the ones who need sight. They don't have to be blind. They could be lost members. There are also disability cases we have. And who are these who are priests? Or are we adding to their being priests? What are we doing? The Lord is speaking to us today that we must center our mission based on what He told us to do. Ellen G. White wrote this powerful, sobering message and says, I saw that it is in the providence of God that widows and orphans, the blind, the lame, and pastors have been placed in close Christian relationship to his church. Because where else do they go? It must be in the church. And so when they find their way to the church, that is where they have been placed to find a close relationship. It is to prove his people and develop their true character. They are placed there for your character to be known. That's why I said earlier on that by you reaching out to them, your character will be developed. You will be known as his people, and your true statement. Angels of God are watching to see how we treat these persons who need our sympathy, love, and benevolence. This is God's test of our character. Take that heavily. The mistake I did not put where you get that quote, but it's Ellen G. White. Good, we have gadgets, we can easily Google, you'll get it. Where the mission to the widows, orphans by Ellen G. White, we than the one that I have given. May God help realize this mission that He has given. I didn't realize that as I would give this message, that I'm actually talking to myself and realizing that I have a mission beyond myself, beyond my family, and go beyond what the church is doing. Because Christ did not even move with that church. Most of them did not even believe in these things he was doing. Some of them came even to realize after he was gone, when it was too late. But thank God we have the moment to serve him, to carry out the mission he has given us. You wonder why I'm chosen to talk as a special parent? Yes, I am one of them. But again, as I thought of talking about myself, I felt I needed to bring close to us a message that would tie us together, that we have a mission. Each one of us has a mission. And let this be your goal, that I, as a person, must do something to, must do something for, must do something with a disabled. Wherever you find that disabled, wherever you find that somebody for, what you will do to whoever God will lead you, God is going to enable you to do that. I have only about 5 minutes to maybe inject in a bit of personal testimony. I may not go so much into it, but I'll talk about the way our mission goes beyond ourselves. I got a daughter who, at her young age, I realized was a special needs girl. I didn't even know the word special needs girl. It is those terms we have learned to develop as we grow. But those were days when people would not even talk about it. I appreciate that things are coming up. People are bringing up new information that makes people not lock these children in the houses. But one thing I know, God gave me that right. I never locked her in the house, not even one day. And that is something we should ensure the church is reaching out to make sure no one is locked out in the house. That's why the devotional talk is for us to make sure we are not leaving anybody. Is there a lame one who is at home, has no wheelchair, and cannot come to church? But we are able to do something. Could it be there's somebody at home who is feels discriminated because can't walk with all the rest? And all that person requires maybe is just a vehicle to take her to church or bring him to church and just worship with the rest. To avoid the challenges I should have brought out. I initially thought I was going to talk about the challenges of the disabled, but that didn't come out. Yes, I know them. But if you Google, you'll find them. They are there. So many of them. You can also find them. But there is a part for you and me to play when it comes to these people. Could it be its physical barrier? Somebody once brought her, carried food, but because they don't even know how to feed very well, the child was maybe eating with all the rubbish there, trying to maybe look like the child is puking with their nose running. Yeah, it can be filthy, it can be terrible. So there are physical barriers, social stigma. Are we allowing this to make our children, our members feel alienated? Communication barrier that even when they try to talk, they cannot. I don't know what your experiences are, but this girl, God gave light from the blues. We didn't have gadgets we could have easily Googled. It's those days of the 90s. I'm laughing because it was only God who had to give this light. I will not go so much into the story. There is a lot that God has helped me by and by, not just me, even this daughter who seemed to be in that dark world. God has helped her reach a point where we can look back and see the way He has led. Now, as an individual, as a parent could be going through what I'm talking about, as a friends in the community, you may be having people, your neighbors, people who are affected, you have a role to reach out. I did that at that time when I had this girl, even when I didn't have so much knowledge. I linked my relationship with a parent who had a child who was disabled. What they did, they got many other children after. But I got close to this family and we would visit, we would even go for physiotherapy together. Unfortunately, this child was kind of always left in the home, but I kept visiting. One time the parents visited some place, and as usual, the child was left and staying in the kitchen. The kids went playing. The parents had gone for some funeral, some distance. Elders, meanwhile, I'm watching. I know only about a minute or two. So the parents went and the kids went playing. The girl was left in the kitchen on the sack as usual because that was her place. The other children, there are so many other things to take care of. So nobody was there in the kitchen with her. Unfortunately, the kind of sack is the nylon, like the the Kalenjins call it chebile. I don't know what we call it, but there's that. Those sacks are used in packing sugar and rice. That's the kind of sack she was seated on or lying on. I don't remember because she couldn't sit so well. So when the kids were playing out there, the way they gave their reports later, they had this girl uh, talking like, making some funny noises. And they were saying, hey, this girl, Chebet is so happy today. So they continued playing. Chebet, they had those noises. Nobody went to check. But guess what? The sack had caught fire. It spread into her body. By the time they came to rescue this girl, she had advanced burns on her body. Well, she was admitted. I would not go so much into the details, but this girl later passed away, went for the burial. The family is still very close to me. We are very good friends. All I'm trying to say is we have a role to reach out. It was so unfortunate to lose the girl because we had a mission together. Now, my encouragement to you all after reading David's story is there someone, is there anyone still left of the house of your neighbor, your friend, your relatives, your brother, your sister, whoever it is? Do the best you can for them. the Lord will bless you. I think I've stopped and went by 1 or 2 minutes. May God bless you all in Jesus' name.